Welcome to our next module, Yoga, Exercise, Sound, and Oxygen. Let's talk about exercise and movement for mental health. There are a number of major types or categories of exercise, and how we use them will be determined by the needs of the client, the stage of recovery, what they're in recovery from, and the benefits and deficits of each of those methods. I want to walk you through some of these. I'd like to talk a little bit about principles of yoga for mental health that I incorporate into my practice. We'll talk a little bit about sound, and then I'm going to show you images of some very specific yoga exercises that I do for anxiety and hyperventilation syndrome. There's been a lot written about yoga and mental health, so I'm going to keep it very focused on some very specific, doable areas that I find most clients, no matter what their age or physical condition, can do. Aerobic exercise involves exercise that raises the heart rate, and there's both low heart rate and high heart rate cardiovascular exercise. We know at the very basic level that cardiovascular exercise improves depression. Indeed, I think if our clients got an hour of aerobic exercise a day, we might be out of business as psychotherapists. So essential is cardiovascular health to mental health. However, not everyone can engage in aerobic exercise at the level that they need to. And so it's important to have options about how to introduce them to different kinds of health. Indeed, at the very basic level, walking is a good aerobic exercise. But if you want to get optimal effects on cognitive well-being, on cognitive decline prevention, on antidepressant activity, you want to encourage what's called interval training, which is where the heart rate goes up to 80 to 90% of its maximum capacity for 1 minute and then comes back down again to 60% of capacity. And you could do interval training in 10 minutes. Now, not everybody's going to be able to do this, but explore interval training as a very potent antidepressant approach that stimulates a whole panoply of neurochemical reactions in the brain and body. Anaerobic exercise is what we usually think about when we think about weightlifting. It relates to the force of muscle contractions. And there's a very important role for anaerobic training to play. Resistance training often involves just using the body movement and creating resistance of the muscles. You might use straps as in Iyengar yoga, or you might use stretch straps as well. There's stability, core, and balance training. I think these are all essential to mental health. The stability and core and balance that we think of physically is analogous to emotional stability, a solid ego core, and finding balance emotionally. And so I encourage these exercises as well. Flexibility is very important for staying lithe, for moving, for decreasing pain. This is where we move into yoga and stretching. And then the energetic forms such as Tai Chi or Qigong. And all of these have implications and application for mental well-being. The research suggests stage-specific physical exercises benefit at the aerobic level 20 minutes 3 to 4 times a week. That's the minimum. And for many of my clients who are depressed or anxious, I try to encourage them to do up to 45 to 60 minutes 5 to 6 times a week. There should always be at least 1, if not 2, days off. Now, some people can run, some people can be on a treadmill or an elliptical or rowing. Everybody can do something, even if it's getting into the water and doing water aerobics, helping people rehabilitate in the water and increase their capacity to do aerobic exercise. There are even machines, if someone's knees aren't very good, where they can do just upper body movement as well. So working with your client to identify what's going to be helpful for them, what's doable, and what they will adhere to is the first step. And you've gathered this information already in the assessment form, or if you haven't, this is a good time to go do that. I find that aerobic exercise is so beneficial for anxiety and depression. However, when I'm working with people with body dysmorphia or body image problems, the runner's high or the natural high that we get from aerobic exercise, sometimes that can be contraindicated with aerobics, and I may start someone doing anaerobic work. The idea of holding weights in the hand and standing in front of a mirror and moving slowly and feeling your outline of your body and how you move from within, and that core awareness of self-image can be much more beneficial in the early stage of recovery. Indeed, one of the things that I do with people with body dysmorphia or body image issues, dissociative issues, is ask them to get, if they don't have hand weights, they can use some soup cans and stand in front of a mirror. Now, many people don't want to look at themselves, so stand maybe 20 feet or 30 feet away, just so they can kind of see their outline and begin to move and pay attention to how they feel. And then every day or every few days, come a little bit closer to the mirror to watch themselves. Some people may thrive better doing this program with a trainer who you can collaborate with to do this, or even in the office if you're set up to do this. This would be very appropriate to work with someone to do and then process what their inner experience is so that you can slowly help them tolerate the sensations, the sense of self, the changing body imagery, and the appreciation for their body in front of the mirror. This is why I emphasize oftentimes aerobic work, anaerobic work with people in early stages of recovery from the dissociative type disorders. Resistance training and balance, I think everyone can benefit from this, particularly people who need to kind of get out of the, I'm only the concrete physical, that could really benefit from understanding that they are much greater than their physical body. Body image issues, again, dissociation. But I also use a lot of balance work with people who want to enhance cognitive function, attention, and focus, because balancing in particular utilizes both the right and left brain, and it calls upon activating parts of the brain that are not often tapped. And so I'll do a lot of balance. I'll use the Bosu ball with a number of my elder clients as well. As you increase balance, you increase cognitive function. I mentioned the core. I think there's an analogy between our core ego and our core abdominal function. And anybody that's got any kind of back pain needs to strengthen their core muscles, all of the abdominal core that helps us sit up. Anybody with poor posture, where people are falling forward or has back pain, anybody that has kind of what we think of as a weak core ego is going to benefit from Pilates, from abdominal work, from really feeling how the core physical holds us and provides support to walk through life. And so as you explore these different physical methods, understand their broad metaphorical application for the emotional results that you're seeking with your clients. And of course, stretching, I think we stretch, and our flexibility physically has an analogy to our emotional flexibility. Sometimes people are too flexible, they're hypermobile, they're too emotionally flexible, and sometimes people really need to loosen up and lighten up. And so that's where doing emotional and physical flexibility is going to have a bidirectional positive effect. Meditation. There are a variety of approaches to meditation. There's mantra meditation, mindfulness, also called Vipassana meditation. There's moving meditation. There's chanting. There's song and sound meditation. If you haven't yet seen the beautiful movie called The Dharma Brothers, I highly recommend it. It's the story about the introduction of Vipassana meditation into a maximum security prison in Alabama. And it's the story about the effects of learning Vipassana on the lives of the gentlemen who were incarcerated. When we think about meditation, think about early, late, and late stage recovery, particularly its application for anxiety or PTSD. Sometimes when people are very anxious, they can't sit still to meditate. That may be where they'll benefit from heart aerobic exercise to reduce the anxiety. And as that is managed, then they may be able to sit for some mindfulness or a walking meditation, or they may enjoy singing or chanting meditation. So think about what's required at what stage of recovery. Tai Chi is another moving meditation. Neurofeedback and Wild Divine technology. This is where someone who may not want to meditate or who doesn't like the word meditation or thinks there's just something about it they're not interested in, they may move towards self-regulation through neurofeedback, another aspect of gaining control over the wild horses of thoughts of the mind. I have a Wild Divine software program in my office that I allow both children and adolescents and adults to use before or after our session. This is a very simple biofeedback machine that they can use, and they're not necessarily interested in meditating, though I do teach mindfulness and yoga to some of my children and adolescent clients. But this is a fun game with sound that helps them learn how to self-regulate while going through a beautiful metaphorical story of exploring the forest. Now, what are some contraindications? There's this great line, before you can lose your ego, you have to have an ego. Just like anything, you can overdo it with meditation. You can dissociate during meditation. I had a client that was doing a yoga exercise combined with meditation, and he got carried away and fell over and broke a few teeth. So there's such a thing as too much of a good thing. So again, teach meditation, whatever the method is, step by step, and work with the client to make sure it's isomorphic to their needs and beliefs of the moment. Underlying much of meditation or self-regulation states is yoga breathing, and I'd like to talk a little bit about the role of yogic breathing, particularly for anxiety and hyperventilation. The breath cycle in yoga is generally 4 times a minute, and this is in comparison to 20 times a minute in aerobic exercise. And the old ancient yogic saying, if you control the breath, you control the mind, gives us insight into the role of breath training in controlling our emotional states. Disordered breathing and hyperventilation. Disordered breathing often goes undiagnosed. And I think understanding and intervening with disordered breathing is essential to helping our clients with anxiety. I find it very prevalent, and many people have disordered breathing and don't know it. And yet many of their symptoms are a result of disordered breathing, and they think they're due to other etiologic sources. Most symptoms of hyperventilation are not the typical rapid, shallow breathing that occurs during panic attacks. Complaints of headaches, neck pain, jaw pain, leg and body cramps, and tension in the shoulder muscles can all be a result of disordered breathing. Posturally, people may present with their jaws jutting out. We have clients that kind of want to tell us something and their jaws are coming out and the scalenes are really tight. They've got pain in the neck, or they're gasping for air, or sometimes people are sitting with their shoulders slumped forward and sighing a lot and can't really even catch their breath, or they may talk until they get to the end of the sentence and they can't even take a moment to take a breath until they run out of air. And then they take a deep breath. These are all signs of disordered breathing, of where the breath cycle is not in a rhythm conducive to relaxed autonomic balance. People complain of neck pain quite a bit because what happens is, with this coming forward of the neck in anxiety or gasping for breath, or we see this in asthma, of course, too, but we see it commonly in anxiety, the back of the neck comes forward and it puts a lot of pressure on the occipital condyle, those back neck muscles, and this can cause both neck pain but also frontal headaches. And so even paying attention to the posture of a client, how they're sitting and how they're breathing, these are some very important assessments that you can do as you're beginning work in this area. So disordered breathing and hyperventilation, also called overbreathing, can lead to brain hypoxia, a deficit of oxygen in the brain, also contributes to depression and headaches. Hyperventilation is the physical side of anxiety. Where you've got anxiety, you've got some form of disordered breathing. Where you've got disordered breathing, you generally have some form of anxiety. Hyperventilation syndrome is estimated in the general population at least 10%, but with much more likely that goes undiagnosed. Breathing and anxiety. The inability to hold the breath for more than 30 seconds may be indicative of hyperventilation syndrome. So this is a simple test you can do in the office with a client whom you suspect of having HVS. Chronic hyperventilators can rarely hold the breath for more than 10 to 20 seconds. This is where yoga, not only our psychotherapeutic work, but yoga, body work, and breath retraining are going to come in, along with nutritional interventions. You remember we talked in nutrition about adding in lots of vinegar and acidic foods with anxiety. This is also where you complement your breathing and your yoga and your interventions with those good culinary medicine interventions. So work with a professional to also consider manually helping your clients release the chronic contraction of their diaphragm and their accessory respiratory muscles, such as the scalenes, the sternocleidomastoid, and the trapezius. This is what people complain about. Now, if you're in mental health, you're not going to manually release those, but that's where you can make a referral to a massage therapist or an occupational therapist, a PT, because we've got our accessory respiratory muscles, which get overused in hyperventilation and overbreathing. We've got the trapezius, which are often fraught with pain, and then the lower respiratory mechanism of the diaphragm can get very tight. And this is often unconscious, and bringing it into conscious awareness is going to help, but it's often going to be benefited for the client to see someone that can actually touch their muscles, help them release, help them breathe, and this will complement the work that you're going to do with them with breathing and counseling interventions. Let's talk about the nasal cycle and the ultradian rhythm. We talked about circadian rhythm and ultradian rhythm a little bit when we discussed the early modules of circadian rhythm and psychobiological cycles. Now we're going to return to understanding the role of ultradian rhythm. This is a nasal cycle that marks physiological states. The left nostril generally is the resting phase, and the right nostril is the activity phase. The hypothalamus integrates and regulates these two physiological states of rest and activity. These correspond contralaterally to the brain. So, for example, when the left brain is more active, the right nostril is more open. When the right nostril is more clogged, the left brain is quieter. And this gives us a lot of insight into how we use breathing to alter our states of consciousness. And again, this is why the yogis suggest we go to sleep on the right side, because the right nostril clogs up and the left brain quiets down. Conversely, in ADHD, research suggests the use of right nostril breathing to open up the right nostril and therefore activate the dominant left brain, which is useful for focusing. Yogic breathing methods have shown significant efficacy for the treatment of PTSD and depression as well. Among people who experienced the 2004 Asian tsunami, people benefited from the practice of yoga, and research by Streeter suggests that yoga increases levels of GABA in the brain, therefore enhancing relaxation. So what are the principles of exercising for mental health? Release energy, have fun while you're doing it, make noise, release inhibition, move slowly, practice it daily, do it in groups or alone, and then teach it in the office and check on your client progress. Now I'd like to introduce you to some slides and descriptions of a handful of core yogic exercises that everyone can do. This first one is called the scalene stretch. And you'll see here the neck stretch, the scalenes on both sides of the neck that get so tight in anxiety and overbreathing. And I provided you with descriptive handouts to describe how you do this, so you can read along with me. You're going to be very comfortable. Stand with your feet about hip width apart. Strengthen your core, tighten that up a little bit, let your arms hang by your side, and then turn your head, just as you see in this photo, off to the side so that you feel the stretch from the jaw and the jawline all the way down to the clavicle. And so that is stretching. And you can even, as you have your hands by your side, lift up only your palm of your hand, and that will give you a stretch all the way down your arm. Now I ask you, practice it with me now. Then let your head come forward very gently over to the other side and stretch out the next side. And hold it for just 30 seconds. It should be a little tight, a little painful, but it still feels good. You shouldn't be in too much pain. And remember, don't ever take your neck back. Always let it come forward as you're switching from side to side. Alma, I'm so excited to share with you today some wonderful yoga exercises that we've discussed doing to help with anxiety, to release your breath, and just to give you an overall sense of well-being. And it does not matter how well you do in these exercises as you begin. That's not the point. What we're going to aim for is proper posture, proper breathing, that you feel good while you're doing them. And as you practice, I guarantee you, you're going to get better at it, you're going to feel better, you're going to open up, and you'll experience the benefits. And of course, as you practice at home, if you've got any questions, just let me know. Now the first one that we're going to do is the first of a series of 3 to release the breath, to reduce anxiety and to improve your overall relaxation. And the first one is called a scalene stretch. The scalene muscles are in your neck, and they can get very tight with hyperventilation, if you have asthma, or for example, if you're anxious and doing a lot of upper body breathing. And so the way you're standing right now is perfect. Your feet are grounded. They're about as far apart as your hips. Your arms are nice and relaxed. And I want you to take your head back at an angle so that you feel your neck stretch, and take it back a little bit further. Yes, there you go. And hold it there and feel the stretch from your jaw all the way down the side of your neck. Yes, into your collarbone. That's where you want to feel the stretch, and breathe into that as you feel this muscle elongating and stretching. And as you hold it there, take your arm on that side and just, yes, keep your arm down, keep it down, and just bend your palm so that you're bending it upward, feeling the muscle stretch all the way down your arm. So take your palm and feel your palm only.
My palm, okay.
That's right. There you go. And lift it up. Keep your neck in that position. Take it back a little further. There you go. And can you feel the stretch now all the way down your neck, into your collarbone, down your arm? There you go. Breathe into it. Let it relax. Now rest your palm. Just let it go. Bring your head forward. Let it come forward. Let it come forward. And come around to the other side. There you go. And feel the stretch now from your jaw all the way down into your collarbone. And you can just do a little micro movement on that neck if you feel like you want to get more of a stretch in one direction or another. Now, as you find that space, lift your palm up again on this side, feeling it stretch all the way down the collarbone, down into your arm. Breathing deeply and relaxing. Can you feel a good stretch through that neck? Alma, can you feel a stretch?
Yes.
Okay, very good. And now bring your head forward. There you go. There you go. Very good. Let me show you this next exercise called the Flying Dragon Shoulder Stretch. And you see here I have with my model, this is what the final stretch should look like. And again, follow along with the description. You stand with your feet shoulder width apart. You lift your arms up over your head, clasp your hands behind your back, and then slowly bend over with your knees bent, coming into this position. Now what you'll notice is this is going to open up your shoulder blades, so try as best you can to bring the palms of your hands together. And lift straight up in the air and make sure you're parallel to the ground. Hold that and then release it and come to standing position. So we've contacted and released the upper respiratory accessory muscles. Now we've come down and we've released a little bit of the trapezius and the shoulder blades, also our wings. Those generally can get very, very tight, and they're held tight by musculature, but really they're meant to expand and contract with the breath. And if they're too tight, there's a lot of compression in the whole rib cage and in the shoulders. So practice that one more time. You bring your hands up over your head, round and back of you, clasp your palms together so they're as closed as they can, and now open up the shoulder blade and lift up, going towards the ceiling as you're stretching your neck out in front. Now don't worry if you can't do this all at once. Do little by little. I promise you, the more you practice this, the better you get. And now take a deep breath and see how much has opened your capacity to breathe in a relaxed manner. Here's another view of that from the front. Alma, now that we have released the first area of constriction associated with anxiety and hyperventilation and disordered breathing, we're now going to come down to the area of the trapezius muscle and the scapula and really open up that breath so that your lungs can expand and you can really bring your breath down into the major area of respiration. Now, to do this, once again, your feet are going to be about hip width apart, and pull in your belly a little bit so that your core feels like it's supporting you, and your arms are nice and relaxed and your knees are slightly bent. Now what I want you to do is lift your arms up over your head, clasp your palms together, bend over very gently so that you're parallel to the ground. And as you do this, lift your arms up while you keep your palms together as best you can. Open up those scapula. Yes, there you go. And now your head is looking straight out and stretching so that you're feeling the stretch in two directions. Get those arms up a little bit more. There you go. Open up those shoulder blades. Very good. And now gently bring yourself out of this position by standing up and letting go. Very good. Okay, now take a moment to breathe and just feel the release that you have in your back and in your shoulders, and how your breath's beginning to feel and how that upper part of your body's coming alive. Now let's try this once more, because generally the second and third time you feel a little looser. So again, knees are bent, supporting with your core. Bring your arms up over your head into the flying dragon. Arms and palms come together and bend over so you're parallel to the ground. As you come over, lift your arms straight up. There you go. Bring those palms together. Very good. Yes, wonderful. Arms up a little bit more as best you can. Head straight out. And now then bring yourself up and into a release. This next exercise is called the Ha breath woodchopper. And this is a wonderful exercise because it combines sound and a movement like you're chopping wood. And so let me show you the steps here. You're going to put your feet about shoulder width apart, strengthen your core. And if you've got back pain, take it easy, don't overdo it. And clasp your hands together, bring them up over your head. And as you come down, I want you to pretend you're chopping wood. So your knees bend as you come down, your arms are swinging forward, coming down on a pile of wood that you're chopping, and then come back up. And here's step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5, step 6, step 7, step 8, and that's the process. Now, there's a wonderful sound that I want you to make as you do this. And I have found this exercise so useful, not just for anxiety, for depression, but also we have so many clients, children and adolescents that feel angry, that have feelings that they just can't really find a way to express. And this sound is called ha. Ha. Now this isn't coming from the throat, this is coming from the belly. Ha, a low sound. As your arms come up overhead, they're coming down. Ha, ha, ha. Every time you chop the wood, ha, ha, ha. And you do this for a few minutes and then come on back up and then just catch your breath. And for a moment, just stand still and feel how your breath feels. You should feel released. It opens up the diaphragm to make that sound, to make the chopping of the wood movement. And take a deep breath and notice the new sensations. Alma, in this next exercise, we are going to have a lot of fun because we are bringing this movement down to the diaphragm, which is really the central muscle of respiration. And we tend to get tight in the diaphragm under emotional stress, and we don't often feel the diaphragm. And this allows us to really activate it. And one of the best ways to activate it is through sound. So I'm going to teach you this exercise in 2 parts, and then we're going to put it together. And it's called the Ha Breath Wood Chopper. And this comes out of Ayurvedic medicine and yoga. So here's the first part. I'd like you to stand with your feet about hip width apart and slightly bend your knees. Now it's very important to pull in your core because you're going to be moving down, and if you've got any kind of back challenges, you want to make sure you're supporting your back. And in general, if you've got back problems, do this very gently. Just take care of your back, and it might even be contraindicated if you've got significant back pain. So you're going to know best what's right for you. So as your core is strong, I want you to bring your hands together, bring them up over your head, and then come down in a swinging motion like you're chopping wood. Excellent. Come right back up again. Let's do that a few times. And find a nice rhythm. Come up and down in a nice rhythm. Don't stop at the bottom. Just keep coming up and down. Up and down. There you go. Move a little bit faster as you're doing it, because that's how you're going to chop wood. Bring some more fluidity. Yep, come on up. There you go. All right. Now, very good. I'm going to teach you the sound that goes along with this. And this sound does not come from your throat. It comes from your diaphragm. I want you to put your hands right now on your diaphragm and the other hand on your belly, because I want you to hear and feel the movement. Ha.
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 Excellent. All right. And you're going to let it rip. You're going to release feelings, emotions. You might be happy. You might be angry. You might have any kind of feelings inside of you that are going to come out with ha. Good. I can see you're already releasing some giggles. I like to see that. So now put together the movement of the wood chopper with the sound as you come up overhead and then come down. Ha!
Ha!
Lower your voice a little bit. Bring it to...
Ha!
There you go. Bring it deeply.
Ha! 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 Ha!
Okay, now come on up and stand. Close your eyes and just get in touch with how you feel. Feel your breath. Very good. So there we have the series of 3 exercises to release anxiety, release pent-up emotion, and to re-regulate your breath. If you're not already familiar with laughter yoga, I encourage you to explore it. And here's a few links where you can explore laughter yoga and its profound effect on mood and also a release of the diaphragm while you're at it.
Let's do a laughter that...
Alma, we're going to have a lot of fun right now. We are going to do laughter yoga. And as I mentioned in the previous exercise, making sound releases the diaphragm, it releases the breath. And in this exercise, we really get in touch with our inner joy, our gratitude, and we can release pent-up emotion and regulate our breath if we're feeling anxious or out of sorts. And so the first exercise is really just laughing. And I want you to think of something that has made you laugh before or something that brings you joy. And we are going to laugh together. Oh, you're a good laugher, Alma. Wonderful. Now, we're going to bring this into a movement as well. And we call this sumo laughter yoga. And the movement involves the arm and the leg coming up and to the left, and then both arms come up into the air and we laugh. So let's try this together. Ha, 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 ha. Oh, very good. How do you feel?
Very good.
I know. Even if we don't feel like laughing, this triggers very profound neurological responses that lifts our mood and releases our breath and helps us feel better. The next exercise I want to share with you is a shoulder pectoral stretch. This is where you stand next to the wall and just give a gentle stretch to the pectoral muscle by twisting towards the wall, applying your arm at the wall and slowly raising it. Here's the second stage, the third stage. And this gives a wonderful stretch to the pecs, which can get very tight, again, in anxiety and where breathing is so compressed. I'm going to share with you some exercises that you can do during the day. For example, when you get up from your desk. One of our goals when we conducted the assessment was to help you release some of the tension and the pain that you have as a result of your work, where you sit quite a bit. And so these are very simple movements that you can do to stretch out your arms, to stretch out the pectoral muscles, and to also do some twisting in your torso and in your back to just alleviate some of the tension that collects. The first thing I'd like you to do is, with your knees slightly bent and being pretty close to that wall, take that arm that's closest to the wall and bring it up so it's parallel. There you go. Come up just a touch higher. And now turn facing me and feel that stretch through the pectoral muscle. This is going to be a wonderful release. Don't overdo it. Just do it so that it feels kind of maybe deliciously painful. It doesn't hurt too much, but it hurts just enough to know that you're getting a nice stretch. This is going to counteract some of the sitting you're doing at your computer for your work. Now slowly bring your arm up to the second position. There you go, stop right there. And again, very gently turn towards me and feel the stretch through the pectoral muscle all the way down into your arm. Should feel it as far as your elbow. And now the third position, bring that up a little bit more and feel the stretch there. Very good. How does that feel?
Good.
Okay, kind of hurts, but hurts good, maybe.
Feels good.
Okay, that's what we want with any kind of stretch. And now you can release that arm and come around. Let's do that on the other side. Okay, so change your position and use the other arm just to practice that. I want to make sure you get this down. Arm is up, very good. And a very gentle stretch. Now in this position, you want to make sure that you don't overdo it and hyperextend your shoulder joint. So little by little, very good. And now you can come up to the second position. There you go, and with a nice stretch coming towards me. Very good. Keep your head straight as you're turning your whole body. There you go. And now the third position, your arm comes up, and now turn your whole body towards me, feeling a nice gentle stretch. Excellent. Very good. And then gently release that. Now this very naturally comes into a whole body twist. If you'll stand facing towards me, yes, you're about 6 inches from the wall. Now what I'd like you to do is to take your palms, keep your body straight, facing forward, and now twist so that your palms are straight up against the wall. Very good. Are you feeling a good twist in there?
Yes.
Okay. Now, if you want more of a twist, you can come a little closer to the wall or a little further away, and you can adjust it as you need to. Now, comes forward, look at me again, and go around in the other direction. Very good. Try to keep your feet straight. Okay. You feeling like you're getting a good twist there?
Yes.
Okay. And now come straight forward again. These will be 2 very simple exercises to do. I would say every 2 hours, get up from your computer and do these stretches along with the ha breath and laughter yoga. The next exercise is a back stretch. This is a wonderful twist where you stand away from the wall about 6 to 12 inches, depending upon your height, and you gently twist around so that your palms are at the wall. And this gives you a wonderful back stretch as well. Next exercise is corpse pose to rib cage breathing. And you see here, I'm lying down, arms above the head, gently breathing in and out. Now, many of us teach belly breathing, as well we should, to clients who are anxious. But where there is hyperventilation syndrome, belly breathing that comes way high up into the lungs and even up into the neck is contraindicated. And here what I want you to do is come from this position, now place your hands on your ribs. And as you breathe from your belly, breathe in only as far as your ribs so that your hands expand outwards. Your hands are along the side of the rib, not on top of them. And so as you breathe in deeply, your ribs expand outward. Now, if you're an opera singer or if you've trained in singing, you know how to do this, but most people don't know how. And as you practice it, you'll notice it'll take some coordination and it'll take some development of the muscle capacity to breathe in this direction. This is what we want to teach our anxious or hyperventilating clients, not these big full-bodied breathing up into the thorax, up into the neck. We want to keep that breath low and expanding outward. One of the goals that we talked about was having a few simple exercises you could do in the middle of the day when you want to decompress, or even in the evening, just to come back into your body after a busy day or a busy morning. And having a mat and being able to lie down for a few minutes and focus on rib cage breathing is an ideal opportunity to re-regulate your breath and reduce anxiety. Now, normally, as we've discussed, we tend to breathe really high up into our lungs, into our shoulders, and even use our neck muscles are accessory respiratory muscles. But in this case, we are counteracting this by doing what's called rib cage breathing. And if you were an opera singer or trained as a singer, this is something that singers train in to control their breath. And so there are really two steps to this. You're going to be relaxing in the corpse pose as you are right now, just letting every part of your body, every muscle just very gently relax as you find the rhythm of your breath. Now the next step is to bring your arms up overhead and give a nice stretch. You've already stretched out those pecs, and if you can touch the ground, do so. There you go. Just let them relax. Breathing in all the way from your belly and breathing out. Make sure your toes are relaxed and your ankles are relaxed. And now bring your hands forward, and I want your hands to contact the side of your rib cage. You're going to use your hands to feel the expansion of your ribs. And in this breathing exercise, you're going to breathe so that your ribs expand outward, not upward. As you exhale, apply a little bit of pressure and release every drop of breath. And again, breathe in only as far as your rib cage, allowing the feel of those cages to come outward. Don't bring your breath up high into your lungs. Breathe in and breathe out. And feel the expansion of your rib cage. If you've not done this before, it's going to feel awkward. And it's not going to feel easy to do, but the more you practice it, the better you'll get. And this is an ideal exercise as an anti-anxiety exercise to re-regulate the breath. I think oftentimes we make a mistake of teaching deep breathing that just reinforces breathing up at the neck muscles. And in this case, the focus is on the belly and the ribs. This next position is elevating the legs. This is deeply relaxing. You come right up to the wall, the gluteals are touching the wall, and then you lift your legs straight up in the air and you breathe and you relax. And from there, here's step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5, and then step 6. You're coming back into position. So this is a wonderful way to release tension in the inner thighs. People who sit a lot, people who've experienced sexual assault, people who have any kind of lower back pain are all going to benefit. Really, we all benefit if we sit a lot or don't elevate our legs. It's very good for circulation, very deeply relaxing to the autonomic nervous system, but most importantly, stretching the legs with the support of the wall is a wonderful way to open up the pelvis and the hips and release pain. These next series of exercises are designed to release the lower part of the body and the lower back, along with the tension that can build up in the pelvic wall and the groin area and the lower leg. And so the first position is just as you have it. You're right up against the wall. And then I want you to lie down with your legs going straight up against the wall, and make sure your buttocks are touching the wall, and you can just scoot in right up against the wall. There you go. Now just hold your legs there for a while, feeling the nice release of elevation. And after a day of sitting, or if you didn't get to work out that day, just being able to elevate your legs is so good for circulation. It's so good for brain health. It's deeply relaxing, and you could spend a few minutes in this position. Once you're satisfied with the amount of time you've spent, the next step is to very gently use the wall to support you to stretch your legs outward and open up your legs. Let them fall to each side as far as feels comfortable for you. You're going to feel a gentle stretch along your inner thigh, along the inguinal ligament. And as you stretch, go as far as you can and then let them rest there. And breathing deeply, breathing into the stretch, allowing your legs to relax. And let yourself take, at least a minute in this position to feel the stretch and the opening. This is going to help not only your lower back, but also your breath. Now, bring your legs together. And I would like you to use your abdominal muscles to support you. This is a very easy abdominal exercise that will take you through a series of positions that will support you while you strengthen your lower abs. And so the first move is to take both legs together using the wall to support you off to one side. Keep your legs together. You can use your hands as leverage. And slowly, with control, bring your legs down. Slowly, and you'll start to feel your abs working. And then you can touch the ground. Okay, keep your legs straight. I know you've hit the wall there. That's okay. Let them come all the way to the ground. Keep coming lower. There you go. And now feel the stretch all through your torso and all through your hips. Take a few minutes to breathe into this stretch. And now when you're ready, keeping both legs together as best you can, bring both legs up, using your ab and the strength. And if you can't, one leg at a time is fine, that's good. And keep legs coming up. And now let them come down the other side, controlling, using your ab. Very good. And give yourself a nice stretch, letting your legs drop to the ground, breathing in. And now if you want to bring one leg up and let the other leg follow, as you practice this more and more, you'll be able to do both legs at once. And that's a sign that your abs have gotten stronger. Very good. Now what I'd like you to do, taking a deep breath, bring the soles of your feet together, open up your knees, and come into the butterfly. And this is such a wonderful stretch for the lower back and for the legs, for the inguinal ligaments, especially when we sit so much. And you can give your knees a little bit of extra support there, apply a little bit of pressure, gentle opening, breathing in. And this is not only a good stretch for the lower back, it's very good for menstrual cramps or discomfort in the lower abdomen. Breathing in and breathing out. Very good. And now if you bring your legs back to their elevated position, keep one knee there bent as you had it. There you go. Don't bend it too much. There you go, just about like that. Now bring the other leg over and place it on top of your knee. There you go. And this is going to give you a wonderful stretch to the glutes. And if you don't get enough stretch there, you can bring that leg towards you a little bit more. Make sure you're against the wall. You can adjust it. Very good. And then you can release that, and you can do this on the other side. This is also a wonderful stretch for any kind of sciatic problems as well. Are you getting a good stretch there, Alma?
Yes.
Oh, good. All right, very good. And you can release that, and you end this with your legs elevated and taking a moment to relax from this series of stretches. The next one I want to show you is the gluteal stretch. And if you notice here, you're going to have one leg against the wall and you bring your other leg parallel over your knee and give a nice stretch to the gluteal. This is very deeply relaxing. It'll release any kind of lower back or sciatic pain. And then if you see here in the next one, and then the third step, you can actually bend over to the side and give your body a nice stretch. And here's the final position that you're in. All very gentle and supported by the wall. This next exercise is called the resting butterfly. And you see the position, you're still at the wall, you're bringing the soles of your feet together, and then place your hands gently on your knees or a little bit above your knees at the thighs to open up that area. This is very good for premenstrual pain, premenstrual tension. It's very good for pelvic tension. So many benefits if you sit a lot. It really opens up what we call the lower diaphragm of the pelvis. So those are a few yogic wall exercises. The Uddiyana Bandha. This is called the flying up lock or seal. Now the Uddiyana Bandha is generally in yoga used for digestive health, for diaphragmatic health. It's designed to move energy up towards the head. It's used for anxiety and digestion. I apply it with my clients who have purging behaviors. If you consider the role of purging, this is a heaving and a very profound movement of the diaphragm in and out to purge, to regurgitate. Following purging, it's deeply relaxing. People fall over oftentimes and go to sleep. The reason people do purge in large effect is to reduce anxiety. And so I've adapted this yoga exercise, which is used to move the diaphragm and move the abdominal organs back against the spine and forward, to mimic the purging movement of regurgitation that we see in bulimia and other kinds of purging behaviors. And so you can view this image of what the contraction of the diaphragm and the inhalation of the muscles looks like, but I've also given you a description of how to do this in your handouts. This exercise not only is going to help your digestion, but it is also going to reduce the urge to purge. In traditional yoga, we do the Uddiyana Bandha to stimulate digestive juices and to activate the diaphragm. However, I've adapted it for use for people with bulimia or with purging behaviors. And you know that purging behaviors are often an activity designed to reduce anxiety, albeit a maladaptive one. And so I introduced the Uddiyana Bandha to provide an alternative to that behavior. And this is wonderful whether you purge, whether you are regurgitating, or whether you are just wanting to improve your digestion. This is a wonderful exercise to do. What I'd like you to do is begin by bending your knees slightly and lean over just so much with your hands on your thighs. Now exhale, and as you exhale, do not inhale again. And now I want you to pump your diaphragm and your stomach up against the back of your spine. And you do this rapidly. There you go. And you do it for as long as you can and then release it and stand up. Take a deep breath. And release. Catch your breath. And then come forward again and repeat this. Release the breath, hold your breath, and now pump. And then stand up and take a deep breath. And you can do this several times. As you do this, your muscles will get stronger. You'll be able to hold your breath for a little longer, and you'll be able to bring that musculature in the front of your body up against the back of your body. How do you feel?
It's hard, but good.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Let's talk a little bit about sound, voice, emotion, and how to use sound therapies for mental health. When we listen to a client speak, we often hear their age. When they tell us the story of a terrible event that might have happened in their childhood, their voice often becomes the 9-year-old's voice or the 13-year-old's voice. So I encourage you to listen to the sound of the voice, the quality of the voice, and what it tells us about emotional states. How does the voice change when speaking about different content? How do you feel, or what do you sense when you're hearing that voice? Some voices irritate us, some voices calm us. So begin to employ the listening to the voice and the emotion that it's expressing as you're listening to clients. And we can even use this voice interpretation to help illuminate insight with our clients. This leads us to sound therapies and the extensive role that sound has for mental health. And you can consider sound therapies as both passive and active. You heard before my making the ha breath. That's an active sound. I'm going to make sound to change my mood. I might sing or I might chant, and we can discover the world's religions and traditions have various forms of chanting and harmonizing. Sound therapies employ vibration. I am a big fan of what's called binaural music or binaural beats. I've also used tuning forks, toning, singing, and there's broad applications for as many people as need this will benefit from it. Binaural beats is a technology that refers to the detection of beats when each ear is presented with a different tone simultaneously. The brain can't tolerate two different tones coming in through each ear. And in response, it synthesizes it. It synchronizes it into one tone. And that action makes it deeply relaxing. These beats are created by the olivary nucleus in the brainstem, and the difference between these two tones creates the beat frequency that we hear. This is called binaural beats. And this is manifested in the brain. And we can use this for brainwave entrainment and hemispheric coherence. And I've used it in clinical practice. You can get MP3s, you listen to it with a headset. Used it for insomnia, PTSD, pre and post surgery, pain addictions, and just generating altered states for deep relaxation. I've used the Monroe Institute music. They were some of the pioneers in this area, Robert Monroe, and you can find a lot of very good research on their website as well. I also use toning with clients. Toning is the use of vocal sounds to restore vibratory patterns in the body. It's the conscious elongation of a sound by using the breath and the voice. You might use a vowel sound, and there are numerous applications. I use it with my client who likes to sing and make noise, who may not want to meditate. You can use it to open up the diaphragm. A client who hasn't found her voice or his voice can benefit from toning. And toning can be very simple. You don't need to know how to sing or how to make music. But what you do is you, for example, begin with the lower sounds. And you can place your hand on your abdomen. So the lower on the body is the sound, and as you move up the body, the sound is higher. And so I ask you to follow along, and you can make these sounds with me. So the first sound might sound like and I can feel that vibration in my belly. If I've got pain in my chest, for example, I might place my hands on the chest. And the sound goes a little higher. And I can feel that vibration, and I've released some of that pain. And so these sounds, you can find plenty of toning online, and you can practice it. Lots of different principles of toning. You can go even higher. Let's say you've got a headache and you want to apply your hands to your temples. And you can identify the sound that feels right to you, to where that part of your body or emotional distress sits. And spend just a few minutes making sound, using your hand to vibrate, open up the diaphragm, and change consciousness while you're doing it. Toning can be done while you're doing a yoga exercise like the corpse pose, or it can be incorporated into breathing. There's lots of variations on toning, so I encourage you to explore it. We're going to do some toning now. This is an exercise that combines the making of sound and vibration to move energy, and I think it's very effective for releasing pain and discomfort. And the basic principle is the lower down on the body that we are, the lower the voice. And as we come up, we raise our voice a little higher. And so I like to begin down at the lowest center point of power, right above the pelvis, right above the pubic bone, and we use our hands to find an area of discomfort or tension or perhaps a little pain, and then we're going to make a sound that's as low as we can go and feel the release in that area. Let's bring it up to the belly. Now, as you're doing this, I want you to give it a full, remember when we did the ha breath? I want you to really, we're not singing per se, we're just letting out sound and a tone. So feel like you can really let it rip. And we can keep repeating it a few times in the same area. Very good. Let's bring it up one. Very good. Let's bring it up to the heart, a little higher. Let's bring it up a little higher tone. Good, and as you notice, I'm trying to match the tone you're making. Now let's open up a little bit more, bring it up to the throat. And the final one. Finally, as we talk about oxygenation, talk about the role of breathing, bringing oxygen to the brain, oxygen to the body through aerobic exercise, the role of disordered breathing and how lack of oxygen contributes to pain and depression. Let me finish with hyperbaric oxygen therapy. Hyperbaric oxygen therapy is a technology that's been in existence for many, many years. It originated for the use of decompression syndrome in diving. However, we have broad application for it. Now it's been used in what we think of as longevity medicine for a while. But currently it's being used for the treatment of traumatic brain injury, for autism spectrum disorder and a variety of neurological disorders, cardiovascular disease and stroke. It's been used traditionally or in conventional medicine for wound healing along with decompression syndrome from diving. It reflects the need for increased atmospheric pressure. It involves the pressure of oxygen over ambient oxygen, so it basically compresses and increases oxygen pressure, forcing the uptake of increased levels of oxygen into the cells of the body. The main mechanisms of HBOT, what it's called for short, are gene-mediated. It exerts its wound healing effects by expression and expression of thousands of genes and gene actions. It upregulates the trophic effects in neurology, it's anti-inflammatory, and it downregulates inflammation. And Dr. Paul Harch in Louisiana is one of the proponents of its use for traumatic brain injury. And I've referred clients with a combination of traumatic brain injury and PTSD. Dr. Harch has published literature on this topic as well. One need not go to hyperbaric oxygen centers. They're found in almost every city. It's not an inexpensive treatment, but one can also purchase a hyperbaric oxygen chamber for use in one's clinic or at home. It involves the inhalation of 100% of oxygen inside of a chamber that's pressurized to greater than 1 atmosphere. And depending upon oxygen-deprived conditions, for example, TBI, it's administered at 1 to 3 atmospheres. And a typical session is from 60 to 120 minutes. It increases oxygenation of brain tissue for the treatment of PTSD, TBI. It's used throughout many countries for the treatment of autism spectrum disorder. It's been found to reduce cerebral oxidative stress, inflammation, edema, and neuronal death as well. And I've given you some of those references. So explore HBOT, particularly if you're working with people with TBI. And the findings, very interestingly, suggest it has benefits even if TBI occurred a long time ago. It does not need to be administered acutely, though ideally I think that's what the findings are. But there's still benefits to be had even years later. So when you're working with these clients, I would explore Dr. Harch's work and an HBOT center in your hometown. So in summary, we've touched on yoga, meditation, disordered breathing, and sound toning, and laughter yoga. We've looked at some yoga exercises in a few positions that target improving breath, that target releasing tension in the muscles that govern breathing. We've looked at state-based application of aerobic and anaerobic, understanding how we maximize benefits based on the stage of recovery of our clients and what exercise will benefit them the most. Emphasizing the release of the diaphragm, and I've mentioned something I'll go into further in our somatics module, how to find some help to manually release the diaphragm, and of course the Uddiyana Bandha exercise helps to release that. The exercises that explore the voice and sound and how to listen to our client's voice as a provider, providing us with insight into their emotional states and their musculature. Toning, binaural beats, and again, hyperbaric oxygen therapy. Thank you so much.